Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a special edition of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Elyachar, the chief content producer and writer of jakestake.com, a pop culture entertainment news website. If you're listening to our audio platforms, please give us a 5-star rating and please subscribe. I'm very excited for this special edition of this podcast to welcome this incredible singer-songwriter for one of my honorary hometowns of Boulder, Colorado. Was heard on BBC TV and radio to an audience of 1.5 million. She has played legendary amphitheaters such as the Red Rocks Amphitheater, Colorado, and the Bluebird and Opryland in Nashville. So, and also not to mention her 13th studio album, The Sanctuary. It's wonderful, listen, is out now. So please help me welcome Rebecca Folsom to the podcast.
Woo! Great to be here, Jacob. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. I'm so happy to have you. So let's get started. So when did you get interested in music and how did that passion involve desire to pursue a career in recording industry?
Yeah, well, um, I know that I wanted to be a musician at age 10. I know that that age was about when, I went from the hairbrush to wanting, putting on little performances for my neighborhood and then even in my school, I put on a performance, a whole musical that was Carole King had put a musical together. And it was I'm Really Rosie was the and so I starred in, directed in, and created this whole musical that we ended up putting on for the whole school. So it's just been one of those things for a long, long time. I grew up in a family that sang, and so we had a rule at the dinner table that no singing at the dinner table because you'd have five different kids come in with different songs and it would be like three radio stations, and so it was like there was just no singing at the table. So, my parents were artistic. I mean, my dad was a lawyer, so he was more, you know, formal. My mom was a big artist, but my dad loved to sing. So I feel gifted and fortunate that the arts were part of my upbringing, and it was just something that just happens like water.
And that's incredible with the arts. And like, I love the arts so much. So who are your musical role models and how did they influence your sound?
Oh boy, I mean, funny to even just talk about my parents were role models because they sang, they sang around the house. Um, But other artists, well, Carole King was a huge influence. That was one of my first albums, and I knew that Tapestry album from front to back. And I used to sing my sister to sleep with it. We had the same bedroom, and we were on bunk beds, and I would sing the Tapestry album to her. So it was really special. So Carole King, and then that, of course, matured into well, I loved the singer-songwriters. Honestly, I loved the singer-songwriters of the late 70s, and I loved Elton John. I loved James Taylor. Um, gosh, even my dad listened to a lot of like Gordon Lightfoot, and he had just such a beautiful voice. And then getting into like Etta James and Janis Joplin, and some of those just powerhouse women, that just really let it wail. Like that is actually something I love doing when I sing. So I love the tender, stuff all the way to just like this caterwauling, like wah, thing.
And I totally agree. And I'm surprised you brought Gordon Lightfoot because actually way back years ago, guys, go on jakesake.com. I had a chance to interview him and you can read this interview after you're done listening to this.
Oh, cool. Super cool. That's great. Yeah, really great. Yeah,
It
so
is.
those were influences for me.
Awesome, awesome. So, what I love about Rebecca, guys, is her incredible songs are just amazing. I was just listening to some of them well before we got onto our call. So, I would love to talk about the stories behind some of them.
Sure. Sure, sure, sure.
One of those songs that I was listening to that I love and got chills with before I came on the call was Sanctuary.
Yeah. Yeah, the title track to the album. Yeah, that song, it's one of those as a writer that sometimes I would write a song and then I'd be like, yeah, it's good, but it's not there yet. And I would go back to it and I would work it and work it. That's one of those songs that I just thought this song is too important to skimp. in any way. And so I started writing it, and then I brought it to my friend Sally Barris, a hit writer in Nashville, and we worked on it and we got farther and it was great. And it was like, no, it still needs another something. And we brought Kim Chryselius in, who's just a fabulous piano player. And so she brought in the piano and the gospel, way that we wanted it to sound. And then we took it another notch. We brought Nick Forster in and we tried some new things. And then ultimately, I took it back to the table and just reworked all the pieces. And I finally got it where it was like, yeah, that's it. That's saying what I want it to say. And really coming from the message of one voice, like we're all unique and we're all different. And there's so much division in the world right now. And this whole album is about how do we bridge that division? How does each unique voice get to have a voice? And I think that happens in both sides, like those that have been undervoiced or quieter, there's the obvious side of the people that are in the mainstream and they're quieting other people. They're hushing them, or they're just blind, and not seeing and acknowledging. There's that, and those people need to wake up and listen more, and also the people that have been undervoiced need to speak up. So there's what is it to speak up and to be supported in that, not what is that saying, being a tall poppy? It's like the tall pop, a lot of people are scared to be tall poppies because they're the ones that get cut. And it's like, what is it for all of us to tall poppy, and to be in our full voice? So that really was the message behind it. And I felt like we finally got it. And then when we went to record it, we recorded it in a church down in Dallas, Texas, with a live gospel choir that called the Saul Gates Chorale. And we brought in another producer. So my Grammy-winning producer, Tom Wassinger, and then we brought in another producer, Sean Martin, and he's a multiple Grammy winner also. And the talent was, just off the charts. It was one of those where I sat there going, why am I singing lead? Like, all these people are so good. And then it was so apparent. It's like, yeah, I need to sing lead. I'm the one that feels this, and boy, did we hit it. I feel like, it hits the highest of notes, and it has the low, and it's full and it's quiet, and it's very dynamic. And I'm glad that you got goosebumps, because that was really, I wanted it to happen that way.
And you're welcome. And that choir adds a whole level of excellence, another level of excellence to that. So song is so, I gotta say, needs to be played on the radio over several other tunes that are like rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat.
Yeah, well, anybody watching this, it's like, request it. Rebecca Folsom Sanctuary. It's actually playing, like, we're playing across the nation right now, and Sanctuary is one of the top songs that's playing. And in fact, we're top 10 in the college radio charts.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and we busted into the top 100 in the Americana country charts. So people are listening and they're asking for it, and DJs are playing it. And if you request it, then we'll even go farther, and that song will be heard. And it's a message of love. That's really what it's about.
Now, another song, you go on the emotional roller coaster, Rebecca. So you went from powerful, moving to haunting, and let's talk about Mercy.
Yeah, Mercy is a intimate song. And what I did with this album is I would go and write with people in marginalized situations. So, my doorway to that was working with nonprofits that already were doing really great work with those communities. And one of those communities was homeless, people experiencing homelessness. And so I went in and interviewed people and talked with people, and went and talked with the staff at the homeless shelter, and really got a feel for the stories and what people were going through, and the feelings of it, and the pictures of it, and really looking into how people that are working in that field, what they're trying to do is they're trying to bring light so that people aren't blind to the people that are experiencing homelessness, that we're aware of what's going on and working towards solution. So when I wrote it, I wrote it one time, and I was writing it sort of for the nonprofits and for the people that had given me their stories, and it just was a little bit outside of myself, and so I rewrote it again. I just thought, I got to go deeper, and I I had my own experience with homelessness. And, the thing is, I was blind to my own homelessness. Like, that's the amazing thing. It's like, it was such a dark period for me that I had like tucked it down here. Like, I just lived over there, and it wasn't me. It was, and, for me, I experienced a very, very small amount of homelessness between ages 14 to 16. And my sister experienced years of homelessness, and, pretty serious homelessness. And so I brought my story and her story into the song, and I created Mercy from that. And Mercy is, it really said it. Again, I felt like I got it. I got what I wanted the message to be. And, you know, we can make the angels sing, or we can make them cry. With all the trouble that living brings, can't help but wonder why. Not mercy, 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 for heaven's sake. Oh, mercy, please heal this human ache. It just goes, it talks about the angels, watching on down. And really, in the story of it, it talks about the grit of homelessness. And that, one thing that really struck me was my sister, when she was homeless, her backpack, her little day pack, and that was everything, everything in that, what she carried around. And whew, that in the very end, well, you'll have to listen to the song, to really kind of get the fullness of it. But in fact, we just had, I had two movie producers call me to possibly use that in their movies. So
Wow, 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 wow,
maybe we'll
wow.
see.
Fingers
I hope it.
crossed. Yeah,
Yeah,
fingers crossed. That's amazing. And I gotta
yeah,
say,
yeah,
that song's very moving and very inspirational as well.
yeah. Thank you, thank you. It's a deep. When I sing it to audiences, I just was singing at the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville just a couple days ago, and I sang that one, and it's a tearjerker. I mean, just people are like, "Oh my God!" And it's one of those things when I sing it to then do something like Sanctuary or something that brings hope, and to people.
Wonderful. And I think you're doing a lot of that. So I want to talk to you about In My Little Town. Is that song
Mhm.
about Boulder?
Yeah, well, I mean, that song is about a lot of places, isn't it? I mean, that's the sad part. I actually wrote that song after the Parkland shootings. And because I was so, I mean, I just was like, I'm just watching this on TV, like, and somebody is in their town just like devastated right now, And the amazing thing is, a couple years later, then I live in Boulder, Colorado, and we had the same thing happen literally in my little town. And, I mean, how close it is. And, my brother was in that store, in the King Superstore, 35 minutes before that happened on that day. And just by sheer, timing, was not in the middle of that. And just how close the brush was with it, and friends that were lost, and people in the music community. I mean, it really, I think it's just easy for us to watch suffering on the TV and place it elsewhere and not really get it, not really, and somehow ignore it, like have a minute of, oh, and then move on, to our next thing. And in my little town, when I wrote that, was really meant to be like, this can happen to any of us, until we solve it. And I think that is, with what just happened in Nashville, and then there was just another shooting.
Yes, in Kentucky. Those for those turning on, listening to this, we are recording this right now.
Yeah,
There was another mass shooting in Louisville, Kentucky.
yeah. And it's just like, something has got to be done. I mean, and it doesn't have to get into red and blue and, divisiveness in it. It really is like human common sense. Like, if we could just come from that place of like, I mean, I think my husband said that there were in a 5 minute period or something, there was like 158 rounds shot, like, you know, just like an insane amount. And it's like, you know, someone doesn't need that kind of gun, you know, to protect it. It just is. So, you know, I think that there are people out there doing really good work. And that's one of the things that I really wanted to do with my album is when somebody is moved by a song, either like, oh, you know, in my little town, or any of the others, you know, that we aligned with a nonprofit. It's like, go to these people. These people are making a difference. You know, everytown.org is like, they are doing really good work around bringing awareness, trying to change policy, just to make human sense of it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and also I did have a couple years ago in Kansas City, in Overland Park, Kansas, perhaps we had a I had like a 45 minute to an hour closeness between the Jewish Community Center shooting. So it was like there was an hour and a half between the time I left my gym and the time that when that tragedy happened. So I think Mike there was guardian angel on that. And I think, guys, if you're ever in a mental health crisis, please contact 988. Once again, 988. If you're experiencing a crisis, that's the bottom line. Please call 988. Do not go past. Do not collect $200. Go past. Go call 988.
Yeah. Good point.
All righty. Sorry about putting that in a dreary mood, everybody.
Yeah, we'll lift it up. We'll bring it up to something else, you
All
know.
righty. So how about New Way Home? That's another good
New Way
that's a song
Home.
that can lift people's spirits up.
Yeah, in a very gentle, beautiful way. You know, that song was, every time I listen to it, I just feel calm. Like I feel calm and like, okay, it's gonna work out, you know. Really behind that was you know, we need new ways. We are lifting rocks and we're looking at some of the shadows, and you know, and we need to do that and not turn away and not ignore and numb. But there's also the to bring in love and the light, and to connect with each other, and really look at and appreciate what's working, you know, that piece of it. But that song is really meant to be like, it's like, yeah, we need to find it, but we can do this, you know, we can do this. That song, and then the very last song on the album is called One at a Time. And I just thought, you know, there's a lot to digest in this album. It's sonically gorgeous. I mean, that was always the my mission with this was to, who is it? I'm
It,
trying
at
to,
times remind me of Brian Wilson when you bring up sonically.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it really, I wanted it to be like this sonic landscape. So some are very, very simple and pristine, and then some are just multi-dimensional, really interesting, beautiful, beautiful sonic landscapes, you know, really is what they are. And you know, what I wanted to do was offer these truths, you know, and maybe some difficult ones, but offer them beautifully, you know, so that it was like sonically you would take it in and like, oh yeah, this feels good, or I get this, you know. And Sanctuary, you lift. I mean, you know, in Sanctuary you just rise to like, we can build a new dream, you know, we can make a sanctuary in this world.
Absolutely. And speaking of Sanctuary, in addition to your musical endeavors, you organize Sanctuary, which is a musical collaboration between writers, musicians, and producers that inspires deep listening, human equality, and peace. Describe the Sanctuary origin story to my audience.
Well, gosh, you know, it was born in a little place in Dallas, Texas. And when it was a renovated church, it's actually where we went back and we recorded the song. And it was just, I was so struck by the space. And I thought, you know, how many voices have risen here in sorrow and in exaltation, um and I wanted to write a song for this space. So I thought, oh, Sanctuary. She actually, the woman who had renovated it was her home, and now more of a center for transformation is what it was. And in fact, this is Susie Batiste, and I want to give her a shout out. She is a catalyst for transformation. She is an amazing force. She's the woman who created Poopery, the spray before you go stuff. And now she's like one of the, top Forbes 100 made women, self-made women. And she's all about lifting consciousness. And so I was in her house, and wanted to write a song for this. And then came up with, oh, sanctuary. Okay, we'll write that. And I started thinking about, well, what is sanctuary? And sanctuary to me was like, oh, it's like, this place that people come to be like a safe place, a haven, a natural reserve, and with it, I thought, well, if they have to come to a sanctuary, then that means it's not safe somewhere, so what is it then to make the whole world and everywhere we go a sanctuary? And how do we do that? And what I kept coming back to with all the work that I did, because the work was going into all these different places. So I wrote with prisoners and went into the state penitentiary and wrote with them, with a bunch of guys that were in for life and that are in for life, and wrote with refugee kids. And, so like every time going into these different places was the idea of trying to bridge places and have people tell their stories, that would be considered sort of living on the outside of mainstream, that their stories are not normally heard. And so bringing those stories into this project, and I'm a facilitator, so I teach open your voice and vocal freedom, and have for 30 years. And in that I brought these workshops and all these tools to these communities, which were just incredible to have them. Oh, when I worked with the refugee kids, like here's an example. There were 30 kids in this first workshop, and I was terrified, to be honest. I was just like, the language barrier, like, how am I even gonna work with these guys, and they were all sitting in their chairs, with their arms and legs closed like big no, to everything. And I started doing the tools, and they started writing their stories. And by the end of the workshop, I could not get them off the stage. Like they were so into it. They were singing and getting together and doing harmonies with each other and doing African dances from the Congo and writing stories that they wrote about their grandmothers that they had missed. And I mean, it was so rich and so stunningly beautiful. So it really, that's been the whole journey, and we actually just had our first, like, put the staff in the ground, our first live sanctuary performance on in March. And with that, it was like, oh, I get it, like this is what's happening with sanctuary. We had one of the veterans get up and speak, who I wrote his story into a song. And he had really not told his story, and for him to get up there and talk to the group of people like so eloquently about the intensity of war, and then for us to sing the song, it was just so powerful. And then us to lead them to nonprofits that are helping wounded warriors heal. So it anyway, to me, that was always the mission, was to bring the voice forward, touch hearts and souls, move people into action, and send them to nonprofits that are already doing really great work.
And as someone that works at a nonprofit, thank you so much for what you do to help step up in your community. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jacob.
Awesome. And I got to say, this is an incredible story. So we got to start winding down our conversation. So
Okay.
who are your dream collaborators? Like, if you want to write a song with, or who you want to bring on a record with, or who do you want to produce your next record or next song?
Oh,
And how
wow.
would they enhance, and more importantly, how would they enhance your sound?
Oh, okay. Well, I think I would love to, Patty Griffin. If you don't know who Patty Griffin is, she's out of Dallas. Not Dallas. Where's she out of now? She was in Austin for a while, but she moved. Maybe she's in Nashville. Um, Patty Griffin is an amazing writer, and what she would add is just a depth and what I put into Mercy, I think she just does effortlessly. And I'd love to write with her. Mary Gaucher is another great writer in that way. Uh, I was thinking Brandy Carlisle. I adore Brandy Carlisle. I watched her. I went to one of her shows and there were 10 people there. So I feel like one of her fans that's been with her for a long, long time. And then I went to the Grammys and got to see her when she did the joke. And I was just, it's like I was up there. Like she was so doing it for me and for you and for, she's such a generous spirit. And what she would offer is everything that I love about the music business, the good side of it, which is the generosity and the what you can do with your platform, the consciousness and love that you can spread. And also then maybe she'd also introduce me to Elton John and to Joni Mitchell. That'd be really, really cool.
I gotta say, you picked some really good ones. I gotta say, with that one with Brandy, I gotta say the way that she brought Joni Mitchell out and do both out of retire, not out of retirement, but out of like performing with live performances and just do that haunting version of both sides now at her thing with Winona Judd breaking down in tears.
Fabulous. So iconic. And what was so beautiful about that was just all the generations like coming together. And to me it was everything beautiful.
Absolutely, absolutely. So last question, are you ready?
Sure, I'm ready.
Where can our audiences find more information about the Sanctuary program? And more importantly, where can they find your music? And if you're on social media, where can they find and connect with you?
Okay. Let's see. So you can find more out about the Sanctuary Project and me at my website, which is just RebeccaFolsom.com. And Folsom, like Folsom Prison. So RebeccaFolsom.com. And my social media, yeah, Instagram is Rebecca Folsom, and you'll see me there with just a little guitar, just big hair and a little guitar, and actually a big guitar, and then Facebook is the same, just Rebecca Folsom. So I think I got in early before all the other Rebecca Folsoms on there, so I didn't have to do some kind of odd name. Those. And as far as getting my music, it's everywhere. It's iTunes, it's Spotify, it's digitally. It's on every platform pretty much. And if you want a hard copy CD, and they are stunning, like we did. I'm also an artist. That's what I got my degree in. So the artwork is just so super yummy. And if you want that, you can go to the website and ask. You just email me, and my people will send it to you, which is great. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So, guys, if you missed an episode of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar podcast, visit our podcast pages on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartMedia, Deezer, Spotify, and Spreaker. It's Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar, JacobElyachar. Now, are you on social media? Now, because I'm on social media too. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Once again, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Jacob Elyachar, JacobElyachar. And guys, if you want to find out what my grade for Sanctuary, the entire album for Rebecca was, head over to jakes-fake.com. Once again, jakes-fake.com. Rebecca, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to talk with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jacob. And I forgot to say YouTube also. So Rebecca Folsom official YouTube. And we made some gorgeous music videos. So really worth checking out.
Cool. Awesome. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, have a great one, everybody.
Thank you, Jacob.
Bye. And